Okay. As you might have seen from registering here, we're going to be talking about using autumn in the English classroom, and I'm joined, as I was last week, by Heba El Sharif, our newest member of the academic team. Uh, what's the weather like in Cairo? I don't know if it's autumn yet. There is it, Heba?
Not yet. No, it's still hot. We have summer
No.
up.
Yeah, well, in Naples where I am, it's still quite hot. So we're getting it a bit early for you. Okay? So if it's not autumn, don't panic. It will be soon, and we're getting you some things you can do in class in the next few months. Okay. As always, you'll receive a certificate of participation and a webinar handout in the next few days. Every week, a few of these end up in participants' spam. So check your spam. If it's not in your inbox, check your spam. If it's not there, send us a message at Formazione and I'll drop it over to you as soon as possible. The handout will have a lot of information extra, all the information that is in the webinar, and then a lot extra too, including some useful links, and you get a certificate of participation because we are accredited by the Italian Ministry of Education and Merit, and also registered on the Sophia platform. Okay. Anyway, autumn, as we all know, at least in some parts of the world, is the season of falling leaves, going back to school, wearing heavier, thicker, warmer clothes, and looking forward to Christmas. We'll have a different webinar on Christmas and also on winter, so I'm not going to be talking about Christmas there, well, in this one. It is a very evocative season, which English teachers can draw upon to plan inspiring lessons. In Britain, autumn is the season of Bonfire Night, while in the USA, and I think Canada too, Thanksgiving takes place. These particular festivities can be used to educate students about English speaking culture, as well as encouraging them to speak about their own autumnal traditions and activities. So I think it's always a good idea when you're speaking to, if you're speaking to Italian students, or if we have some teachers from other countries here, then it's always a good idea that they can see these traditions in other countries and they can compare them and use their English to describe the ones that they're more familiar with. So it's a great way of seeing, having some language from the other countries, and then they can have different language that they can use on their own country. And I think Heber's going to be talking about some other countries' traditions for Easter, and one is the celebration of Diwali. Let us know, and I think some people maybe are already doing it in the chat, what your favorite aspects of autumn are. So, do you have local traditions? Are there things you look forward to? I mean, I'm certainly looking forward to being a bit cooler at night when I can sleep. Okay? But also the things of getting the new set of clothes on. All the sort of nice things we like about autumn. As always, we have some objectives. So we want you to be better able to incorporate vocabulary and themes of autumn into your English lessons. We want you to be able to arouse students' curiosity with foreign and local traditions in order to encourage production of spoken and written English, and to present literature. We do have some literature here at the end on the theme of autumn, and I'm going to give you a very beautiful poem and a little analysis. We'll listen to it and an analysis that you can use in your classrooms there. Okay. Oh, Ingrid does point out that it's wine season. Oh, yeah, that's something not to be forgotten. Okay. Although for me, every season's wine season. There is, as I said, a lot of autumn vocabulary. In America, they generally refer to autumn as fall, for I guess obvious reasons, the falling of the leaves. And it has many associated words and expressions both in British English and American English. Let's have a look at this video, which the link's there, and it's also in the it'll be in the handout. A little video that you could use and talk about with your students. Okay? Are you able to hear it? Sorry, Eva, can you hear
No,
it?
there's no sound to the video. We can't hear it.
Okay, let me just find out what's going on here. Okay, I just need to change a setting in here. One moment, bro. Okay, this should sort it out.
Actually, my favorite season.
That better?
To this lesson.
Right.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Hey everyone, I'm Alex. Thanks for clicking and welcome to this lesson on fall vocabulary. I'm very excited today because fall is actually my favorite season. And today we're going to look at some words, some verbs, some nouns that we use when we talk about the fall and the different activities that happen during this season. So first, the top sentence says in fall or autumn, or in the fall, the autumn. When you're talking about seasons, you can use the article the or not. So you could say in the fall or in fall, in the autumn or in autumn. And again, fall or autumn, doesn't matter which one you use, everyone will understand that you're talking about the season where things get colder, the leaves change color, etc. So speaking of leaves, here's a lovely Canadian maple leaf. The leaves in the fall, we can say, change color. They rustle. Now, if you're not familiar with the verb rustle, it refers to the sound that the leaves make when the wind blows through them. So when you have the leaves going like this, the leaves start rustling. So the leaves rustle in the trees. They make sounds like they're rubbing and crunching against each other. And again, we say the leaves fall off the trees. We don't really say they fall the trees or they fall down the trees. The most common expression, very useful, is just fall off the trees. So here you have a picture of a tree in the autumn or in the fall with the leaves on the ground. Now, in the fall, here are some things that you have to do. Number one, you have to bundle up. This is a phrasal verb that means you have to dress warmer. So you notice me today, I'm wearing a jacket, I have a scarf, I am bundled up a little bit more, okay? So to bundle up means to dress warmer. You also have to rake the leaves. If you are a homeowner, you have a house, and you have trees around your home, you might have to use a rake to rake the leaves, okay? Now, if you're lazy, or maybe just environmentally conscious a little bit more, you can also mulch the leaves. Now, to mulch means to cut them and make them into small little pieces. So to mulch the leaves, most lawn mowers are able to mulch leaves. So this is a lawn mower. I'll just write that word for you guys here. So one more time, you rake leaves with a rake and you mulch leaves with a lawn mower, okay? Talking about farmers in the fall, they reap the harvest. So the harvest is the full collection of fruit, vegetables, etc. that the farmers have grown. And now it's the fall, it's time to collect the food from the fields. So farmers reap the harvest, they collect it and take it and make sure that, everything is used, and they take all the corn, all the other vegetables as well. Farmers also put scarecrows in their fields. So here is a picture of a scarecrow standing in a field like this. So this is a very common thing that farmers use to scare birds, right? So remember the word scarecrow. If you've seen the Batman movies, the scarecrow, there's the inspiration. And finally, in the fall, in the autumn, the temperature. If you want to talk about the temperature getting colder, you can say the temperature drops, the temperature goes down, the temperature falls. So it's all connected. We started with in the fall, we end with the temperature falling. Now, if you'd like to test your understanding of this vocabulary, as always, you can check out the quiz on engvid.com, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you, everyone. Bye.
Okay, some helpful vocabulary there, and just see if you remember this. Let me just maybe stop that video. Okay. See if you remember this. In the leaves, in the fall, the leaves fall. The trees. Let us know 1, 2, or 3, and then also farmers use to frighten the birds. Is it scarecrows, scary crows, scared crows, scarecrows, or Batman?
Yeah, everyone's getting the first one right.
You're good. Okay. I would expect nothing less for all our participants, but this sort of video could be really useful with your students. So I'm pretty sure that you could use this with the students, and they'll be with all your students. There'll be something they'd learn from it, even if our participants are much higher level, of course. Anyway, we do have a webinar handout there. So in our handout, we'll have a worksheet on this. Let me just move on to the next one. Another thing that happens on the 5th of November, okay, is Bonfire Night, or Guy Fawkes Night in Britain. And there's a rhyme here. Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder, treason and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. It's a rhyme learnt in Britain in primary school to remind people why they celebrate Bonfire Night. There is a bit of history there. You can see also that on the right, you can see that there's a few more verses that are maybe not as commonly known. Let us know in the chat if there are words in there that maybe you don't think are in common use in contemporary English. I can see at least one, and this is something that dates back to the 1600s. So obviously the language has changed a bit in the meantime there. Let's have a look. I think we have a video here about the history behind Guy Fawkes Night. So it's a little bit of interesting history that you may want to cover when you're talking about the British royal family. Okay.
November brings fires and fireworks. Sometimes you will hear people say, "Remember, remember the 5th of November." They are talking about Guy Fawkes Night. The story of Guy Fawkes Night begins in 1605. At that time, James I was King of England. But some people did not want him to be king, because they followed a different religion from James. So a group of them, a man called Guy Fawkes and his friends, made a plot to kill King James and his government at the Houses of Parliament in London on the 5th of November 1605. They put 36 boxes of gunpowder in a room underneath the Houses of Parliament because they wanted to kill a lot of people. But the plan did not work. The king's soldiers found Guy Fawkes and the gunpowder. They sent him to prison. In January 1606, Guy Fawkes and some of his friends were killed in front of the Houses of Parliament. When people heard that the plotters were dead, they celebrated with lots of fires in the streets. King James was alive and well. Since that time, every year on the 5th of November in most parts of Britain, people build a big fire outside with all the dead leaves and old pieces of wood that they do not want. Children push newspaper into old clothes to make something that looks like a man. They call it a guy, after Guy Fawkes. And sometimes they carry the guy around the streets to show people. They say, "Penny for the guy," and ask people for money for fireworks. Some people have a bonfire with fireworks in their garden. But fireworks are expensive, so often people have one big party together in a park or a field. It is usually very cold in November, so they have hot food and drinks to keep warm. November brings fires and fireworks. Sometimes you will hear people say, "Remember, remember the 5th of November."
Sorry, it started again there. I beg your pardon. Okay. As you can see on the right here, we have a worksheet in the handout. We also have the answers. So you've got a sheet that you can print out for your students and a sheet you can print out for yourself with the answers there. And so we have some listening comprehension and even some debate questions have been added for higher levels there. So nice activity that you can do if you're studying the British history or just these traditions, and incorporates quite a lot of interesting vocabulary there. See? Another thing that I guess was around that sort of time, maybe a little earlier, was Thanksgiving Day. And this is celebrated in America, well, the United States and Canada. And let us know in the chat what you know about Thanksgiving. Why do the Americans and Canadians celebrate it? When are the celebrations? Okay, it's not a celebration that happens on a particular calendar date, but it's calculated a little bit differently, I believe. And is there a better way to celebrate than with the foods you can spot? So we've got a reading exercise that you can print off the reading and also the multiple choice questions and give to your students. And again, the other thing is you could always get students to compare this with one with the other. And look, even if you're not so familiar with Thanksgiving as the American tradition, there's always a good idea to ask your students what they would give thanks for. It's always or what they're thankful for, another way of saying it. Okay.
Some people in the chat are saying that it's Thanksgiving for the food, for the harvests.
I believe, I believe it's been a while since I read that handout, but if I remember, it was something about the colonists were starving and the Native Americans brought them some food, and they managed to survive through the winter.
And that it's the 4th Thursday of November.
That's correct, yeah. Okay, I know it's a Thursday, but yeah, it's probably that one. Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so something to look forward to. And whether you want to celebrate it or not, it's something nice to study because it is. I think it's very popular in Britain, partly because it's not a religious holiday in the sense that it's whether you're of any religious extraction or none. You can celebrate this because it's sort of a national one. Okay, maybe you don't want to celebrate it if you're Native American, although I guess they sort of incorporates them as well. Anyway, I'm going to pass over to Heba, who's going to tell us a little bit about Diwali. Okay, not sure how you pronounce it. Okay.
I think it's Diwali. So, hello. I think it's also important for us to widen the general knowledge of our students and introduce them to other cultures. So we added a few more slides about different celebrations around the world. So there's Diwali, which takes place in autumn. It happens in many big cities in the UK. It also happens in the US for a certain culture of people. I'm not going to say which, you guys have to guess. So if you know who celebrates Diwali, then please put it in the chat.
Ellen has already said Indian Light Festival. Okay.
Yes. So this video, and there's an accompanying worksheet that can be used in the lessons if they're looking at religion or civics or different cultures. For older, more advanced students, you could also have a discussion about the meaning of the festival. It touches upon the victory of good over evil, light over dark, like a lot of festivals from different cultures do. And we'll watch this video.
Yeah, sure. Just before we do, Maria Louise also noted that Halloween happens in autumn. We haven't included Halloween in this webinar because we've got a special webinar on Halloween. So stay tuned, and a week or two before before Halloween happens, we'll have a different webinar on that alone. I think that's rich enough to not be included in another webinar.
Diwali is a festival that usually lasts 5 days and is celebrated by millions of Hindus, Sikhs and Jains, and even some Buddhists from all over the world. The date Diwali starts is different each year. This is because it follows the pattern of the moon in the Hindu calendar, but usually it's held around mid-October to mid-November. Diwali is the victory of good over evil and light over darkness. So what are the key parts of Diwali? Just like how different the history of Diwali is, the way Diwali is celebrated is different too. But these are the 5 of the most common things that people do during the festival of Diwali. Number 1, the word Diwali comes from the Sanskrit word Deepavali, meaning rows of lighted lamps. So it's no surprise that houses, shops and public places are decorated with small oil lamps. People believe the lights and lamps help Lakshmi find her way into people's homes, bringing prosperity into the year to come. Number 2, many different colours and shapes of fireworks are set off during Diwali. Not only do fireworks get you in the festive mood, but the bright lights and loud noises are said to scare away evil spirits. But please remember to be safe when playing with sparklers and watching the fireworks. Number 3, Diwali is also a time to buy fancy new clothes. It's worn to symbolise a fresh start and welcome the goddess of wealth and success, Lakshmi, to bless us for the good year ahead. Number 4, people create beautiful artwork called Rangoli for happiness and positivity to welcome the goddess Lakshmi into their home. These are patterns made with colourful sand, rice or flower petals to make lovely designs on the floor. Finally, number 5, families usually come together for a big party with lots of delicious traditional Indian food, and you can't forget lots of yummy Indian sweets too. And there you have it, all you need to know about the festival of Diwali.
There you go. This year Diwali is going to be on the 20th November, and there are worksheets for it in the handout.
Yeah, we got make sure you take a look at the handout this week because it's got. I mean, you should look every week, but this one in particular has got a lot of handouts at the worksheets that you can print off at the end. So we've really, prepared quite a few lessons for you there. So take some of the weight off and let your students explore these interesting aspects of autumn.
So another one that we also found was the Egyptian autumn celebration. It's called Eid al-Sulh, or the Reconciliation Festival. It happens in the Siwa Oasis every autumn. It's 3 days of celebrations around the full moon on one of the most beautiful mountains called Dakrur Mountain in the Western Desert. It's Siwi tribes. They celebrate the date harvest by singing, dancing, music, crafts and prayers. And the whole aim of it, Eid al-Sulh means reconciliation, and the aim of it is to resolve disputes and to build friendships between the tribes. This signifies a new year, and it's marked by love, respect, instead of grudges and hatred. Now, several ways you can come at that for a lesson is for an A2 lesson, for example, you can use I can see, and then give them a vocabulary bank where they can take from. People feel so-and-so because so-and-so. For B1 level, they can do a peace feast menu where they prepare 3 dishes. They come up with 3 dishes and a reason for each dish. Like one can be a comfort food, one can be something that celebrates the crops of the season, another one can be something that's very big and diverse and can be used for sharing. For B2, we do role play, or you could do role play, like they can have a council of the elders, and you can they can come up with a topic for conflict, and then they mediate and resolve the conflict, and they do a reconciliation pledge. For C1 or C2, they can have a debate or a discussion topic about why end the year with forgiveness, why is this done, why do you think it was done, and it could be a very lively debate.
Yeah, some really nice ideas there for every level. You have that.
Another one from Australia is Partajima. I hope I'm saying it right. And in the Southern Hemisphere, they also have autumn, but this is also a nice piece of information to tell your students, is that the months are different, because a lot of kids don't know that Christmas is at a different time. I think Christmas is at a different time, right?
No, it's at the same time, and the months are at the same time. It's just that the seasons are at
It's in
different
the summer,
times.
not in the winter.
Yeah, so it's still, at the moment it's still September. I'm from Australia, by the way, so okay, I don't know so much about this festival because I'm not from the north of Australia, but we do have the months are the same. The Christmas is the same, but Christmas is in the middle of summer. So, okay, when we're talking about autumn, we're actually talking about the beginning of the year, not the end of the year. Okay.
And this is a nice bit of information to introduce into your lesson that will get the kids thinking and researching, and it's something that they wouldn't normally know. So in Australia, this April Partajima, it means shedding both light and understanding, generosity, spirit of the people, and it brings together, it's 10 nights of celebration. It brings together the Aboriginal art. Aboriginal means native, the Aboriginal art, stories, talks, and it's a huge bonding festival. And it's very beautiful. It's actually very beautiful. They turn an area that is completely desert into something that is so much more.
Yeah.
Text in the chat of any other festivals you know in the southern hemisphere. Does
Yeah,
anyone festivals?
let us know. Yeah, no, it's really nice. I mean, we should do a webinar one time on like Aboriginal Australia or First Nations, or maybe across the world. Would be interesting because there's a lot of those really interesting festivals, traditions, cultures. I know in Australia they're becoming more prominent every year, as we explore the richness of the original culture there. Just to end, we're going to have a bit of a look at John Keats, one of the greatest poets in the English language, even though he died at a very young age of 25 years. He's the youngest of the second generation of Romantic poets. So when we talk about the first generation, we're generally talking about um, Blake, Wordsworth, and Coleridge. And then the second generation, we have Byron, Shelley, and Keats. Byron, Shelley, and Keats were born in that order, but died in the opposite order. So Keats died first, then Shelley, then Byron. Um, all of them quite young. Okay. He's best known for his odes. That is one of them we're going to be looking at today, which he wrote in the year of 1819, a year before his death from tuberculosis in Rome. If you live in Rome or you visited Rome, I'm sure you will have been to the Spanish Steps or Piazza di Spagna. And the house that you can see there, if you're looking up the Spanish Steps, if you're looking up, then it's on the right hand side, and that's actually where he died. And it's now the Keats Shelley house. Shelley died in Italy too and is buried in Rome. In fact, in the same graveyard as Keats. Sorry, one moment. And so there's a shared museum there of their lives in Italy. He is, as I said, the last or the youngest and possibly the greatest of his poems is To Autumn. Many people, myself included, consider it one of the most perfect poems in the English language. That is some of some of Keats's poems are wonderful, but have sort of some lines maybe don't have the effect that we want them to have. But this one really hits on a very high level. We talk about them as odes because they generally address a certain object. So, ode to a Grecian urn, strangely enough, is spoken as if the Grecian urn is the person listening. Okay, and here he's personified autumn as a in certain it changes a little bit from stanza to stanza. You can see the original manuscript there that he wrote almost without blotting out a word. So he really was a very poet who composed very quickly and revised a little but not much. Okay. Anyway, here we have the poem. Rather than listening to me read it, we're going to have someone who can probably do a better job and is probably a bit better dressed than me. So let's have a look and listen. Well, we'll listen here.
To Autumn. Season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, close bosom friend of the maturing sun, conspiring with him how to load and bless with fruit the vines that round the thatch eaves run, to bend with apples the mossed cottage trees, and fill all fruit with ripeness to the core, to swell the gourd and plump the hazel shells with a sweet kernel, to set budding more and still more later flowers for the bees, until they think warm days will never cease, for summer has o'erbrimmed their clammy cells. Who hath not seen thee oft amid thy store? Sometimes whoever seeks abroad may find thee sitting careless on a granary floor, thy hair soft lifted by the winnowing wind, or on a half-reaped furrow sound asleep, drowsed with the fume of poppies, while thy hook spares the next swathe and all its twined flowers. And sometimes, like a gleaner, thou dost keep steady thy laden head across a brook, or by a cider press, with patient look, thou watchest the last oozings hours by hours. Where are the songs of spring? Ay, where are they? Think not of them. Thou hast thy music too. While barred clouds bloom the soft dying day, and touch the stubble plains with rosy hue, then in a wailful choir the small gnats mourn among the river sallows, borne aloft or sinking as the light wind lives or dies. And full-grown lambs loud bleat from hilly bourne. Hedge crickets sing, and now with treble soft the red-breast whistles from a garden croft, and gathering swallows twitter in the skies.
You could have done that.
I could have done it, but I wouldn't want to mess it up. Sometimes I skip a word or so. Okay. Anyway, the poem describes three aspects. So it has three. It's made up of three stanzas. So it describes three aspects of autumn. First of all, and these are sort of also in order of the month or the season passing through. Its fruitfulness, its labor, and its decline. So the fact that it's the time of the harvest. It's a time of harvesting itself, so there's the work to be done, and then it's also the time in which the too late to plant for the new summer, so it's a bit of decline. The animals are moving on. Each stanza also not only does it pass through the season itself, but it describes a part of a day. In the first one, we have the morning. In the second, there's the afternoon, and then the third one we have the evening, and as I said, progressing from early, mid to late autumn. Okay? In the second stanza, autumn itself is personified. So while he's talking about a worker, a sort of lazy worker, I guess, it seems to be autumn itself. He's addressing the poet or the speaker, I guess, is addressing this seated, restful, or watching largely motionless activities fitting for the languid season following summer's bounty. So there's this idea of the harvest having been done, the food is gathered, there's the bountiful riches of the cider press or the grain there. So they're not worried about surviving the winter. Okay? Um, some have also seen, and it's hard not to when you also read some of his other work, see it an implication of Keats's impending death. Keats's mother and brother had already died of tuberculosis, as Keats referred to it, the family disease, with John Keats the poet, tending to his brother in his last months, less than a year before the poem's composition. Is Keats longing for a peaceful death? That is a theme of Ode to a Nightingale, as autumn slowly fades into winter, knowing that a lot of the poets of this period and any period, particularly Shakespeare does it, likening the seasons, the passage from summer through autumn to winter, or from spring, I guess, starting from youth into winter, going from childhood to old age and death. Okay, the real, and this is something maybe I should have read it, I guess, and I would encourage everyone to read the poet themselves out loud, is in its imagery and above all its sound. No English poet, in my opinion, so much as Keats, knew how to draw on the sonorous aspects of English to evoke the rightness and bounty. This is a poem that really needs to be read aloud, to feel the sounds in your mouth. It is extraordinary when you read it how easy it is to pronounce the words. There's no cacophonous syllables or consonants getting in the way. Generally, the vowels and the the consonants are all work together, sometimes evoking what they're talking about. So the call of the birds, the bees, things like this. But it really does give you a sense of fruitfulness, even in your mouth as you're reading it.
It feels very different when you read it versus when you hear it.
It is, and so as I said before, I would really encourage you to read it aloud. It is a beautiful poem, and I think, as I think one of the famous poet T.S. Eliot said, a lot of poems can actually communicate through sounds before they're understood by the conscious mind. And I think, if you're having a hard time understanding a poem, and this is a quite a complex poem, even though it's not particularly complex language. Read it aloud and let it work on you physically before it works on you mentally. Anyway, winding up, okay, as we saw in last week's webinar, back to school, it is the time of going back to school. So it's a real good moment to engage students' imaginations and interest in order to set a productive tone for the school year. So as I said, we've given you a lot of worksheets that you can use to get the students interested and thinking about this. We've got a lot of webinars coming up, as I said, on Halloween, on Christmas, on winter. We'll have some on spring, Valentine's Day, Earth Day, and other festivals throughout the year or times of the year. And so we've always got some things, and we always come in a little early so that you've got a few weeks to use them before the actual time is up. Autumn is arguably the prettiest time of the year in many parts of the world. If not where you are, then I'm sure you've seen pictures of the trees changing colour in New England or in Britain and Europe. Vocabulary about landscapes and the natural world can be the focus of lessons during autumn. Also, as I did mention, many other works of literature can be used in lessons on the theme of autumn. Think of Shakespeare, who is as a good country boy from the West Midlands, knew the natural world quite well. So in Sonnet 73, he talks about that time of year thou mayest in me behold, that time of year being autumn, the autumn of his life. We have Shelley's Ode to the West Wind, written in the Cashane Wood near Florence, a park now in Florence, and also alluding to, in fact, Baia, the area to the west of Naples. He talks about in that one. So Shelley and Keats, both people who did live sometime in die also in Italy. And we have Robert Frost's the Road Not Taken, which the one that starts two roads diverged in the yellow wood. If you are teaching that one, just be a little careful of it. It is a little bit of a tricky poem that has a sort of surface meaning, which sort of emphasizes the choices that you make. But I think it's actually a bit more tricky than that. And actually, it talks about how we sort of justify whatever choice we make. We tend to justify it as the right choice, even
That's
if it
very
wasn't.
deep. I like that.
Yeah, if you see that poem, it's like one of these poems that they often put on cards, or students memorize it, thinking that it's something about being independent. But I think even Robert Frost did admit himself that it's a poem that has a little bit of a trick in it, and sort of saying that we when we look back, we always justify our actions by saying, I took the hard choice, even though we know that at the time we just went along with the flow. Okay. Anyway, as always, sorry, one moment. As always, I'd like to ask you for suggestions. So if you have any ideas for future webinars, let us know. We've got a lot coming up. We've got about Mary Shelley. Okay, so someone who Keats did correspond with is Percy Bysshe Shelley, her husband. Yeah, we can certainly put that in. I think I might have something somewhere on that. I can certainly incorporate it in some other webinars on these sort of topics. Thanks for your attention. As I mentioned before, you will receive a certificate of participation and a webinar handout with lots of worksheets, activities, and links in there. Next week, we are going to be talking about something that actually came up as a request recently, the teaching the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So even if you're not sure about what those are, or you haven't taught them, I think you'll find it a really interesting webinar. It's one we haven't done before, and I'm looking forward to being able to talk a little bit about these things, and can see how you can use them. Right? Anyway, thanks to all our participants, and thank you very much, Heba, for joining us.
You're welcome.
And we look forward to everyone joining us again next week. Okay? Goodbye, everyone, and I'll see you next week.